A little bit about me. I describe myself as a recovering finance guy. I got into HR about 7 years ago after a finance career at Google and Apple and Box. And really what brought me into HR was the opportunity to try to help move the needle on data. In my past lives, I'd seen how well other functions use data, and getting a glimpse into HR, I just really saw this opportunity and wanted to help teach and be able to talk to folks like you and really move the needle on how we use data in HR. So this presentation, I like to start with this People Analytics Maturity Curve. So this is from a great article by McKinsey called How to Be Great with People Analytics. And I really like the way that they frame up kind of the 4 stages of people analytics. So in stage 1 here, I think we've all kind of at some point in our careers been here. Poor data, very sad emoji, cannot reliably report on anything. Usually this is when you either don't have an HRIS or have just implemented an HRIS and there's some data integrity issues. That's kind of the bottom of the stack. The next step up is good data. And so what we're going to talk about today is how to get from good data to strong data. But good data is when you finally have that Workday implementation or that HireRoad implementation. I think I saw them here. And you can start to report on things, but it's hard, and it's hard to get it out, and people aren't really using it. And so step 3 is a step past that. You have your good data, you have a dedicated team. Most importantly, you have a culture of using this data. You can now reliably report, describe what happened, but most of the analytics are backwards looking. And so that's step 3. Step 4 is advanced analytics. This is where you start hiring data scientists and folks who can do predictive analytics and start to use the past to predict the future. So what we're going to talk about today is how do you go from 2 to 3. So the first piece of this, I'll give you a little anecdote. I've done this journey at a couple of companies now, and the first time I made a big mistake. I went field of dreams, and I said, if you build it, they will come. And we had these amazing dashboards that we spent all this time on, and nobody was using them. And it was only later that I realized the dashboards are not the battle. It's the culture that's the battle. So the first most important part, and the part that takes the longest, is to start to create that culture of data. And so, taking a step back, most people don't join HR because they aced math. They join HR because they love people and they aced org studies and communications. And so there is some well-earned fear about data in HR that you have to get in front of. And so there's a way I like to do this with my teams, and it's by scaring the shit out of them first with a view like this. This is not what we are going to do to you. We are not going to put you in front of your business partners with this, having to try to explain. What we're going to do is something more like this. So every person here drives a car on a regular basis. And if you think about driving a car, you are monitoring 3 KPIs in real time. You're monitoring your speed. If you're manual, you're monitoring your RPMs. You're monitoring your gas. And you're doing so in a very, very high stakes game. And you don't even think about it. So this is really what data should be in HR. It should be us focusing on a few things that are critically important and using it to steer and to drive. And the stakes are a lot less high than a freeway. So by starting to declaw data and really just think about less is more, we're going to start small. Let's give you something you're comfortable getting in front of your execs with. This is a good place to start, and it's usually the longest tail in your HR journey is creating that culture of data. Okay, so the next question. All right, we've got everybody on board. We now need a platform. We've got our HRIS. Do we buy it or do we build it? So I've done both of these things. Let's talk about build first. If you're going to build a people analytics solution, you've got to hire a people analyst who knows data pipelines, data visualization, SQL, coding. That's harder than it sounds. It's very hard to find these folks who are great at all 3. But that recruiting journey sets you back 4 to 5 months. And then once this person is here and they're starting from nothing, they have to spend months building the analytics engine behind the scenes. Before you can even build the dashboard, you have to be able to take these Workday data pipelines and turn them into things that you can use to build dashboards. So this is another 4, 5, 6 months of no visible progress, but a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And then once you're there, you're now 3/4 of a year into it, then you can start creating the dashboards and mocking them up and creating your pilots and validating, etc. So the time to impact on a build decision is long, and it's expensive. These folks are not cheap. Usually you're using resources from your data engineering team, which are also really expensive. So we'll talk a little bit later about why you eventually do want to build as you scale up. But to start, when you talk about time to impact and ROI, I heavily suggest buy and then build down the road. So this is really where our case study comes in. So the folks at PeopleInsight by HireRoad, I've worked with them now at a number of companies. I can't speak well enough about the platform, but I want to talk a little bit about this most recent implementation at ClickUp and how we went about going from nothing to something in a really short amount of time. So I think we signed our contracts. Well, all right. I actually convinced our CPO before I came on to get the contract work done so we could hit the ground running on day one. But this is a pretty typical timeline for PeopleInsight by HireRoad. Week 1, you're getting contracts done. Week 2, your internal team is creating the workday reports off which this dashboard engine will function. It works off of just 4 workday reports. The lift isn't too heavy for your HRIS team. That 3rd week is where the magic happens. Once you give them these 4 reports, within a week, you have a suite of 25 to 30 dashboards covering all the basic HR stuff. And from there, you're really off to the races. So what does this actually look like? This is just a picture of the exact dashboard. This is the first one of the dashboards. But you can see here the drop down. Within a week, you have 25 dashboards covering turnover, promotions, headcount, DEI, all the things that as a data person, when I get a tough question from execs, and I say, I'm going to get back to you, I can sneak over to my dashboards and quickly figure it out. So in terms of time to impact, it's really a no-brainer between buy versus build. And then in terms of investment, this platform cost me a fraction of what I would otherwise spend on those people analysts. So we'll talk about why you want to eventually build, likely, but in terms of getting started, really recommend buy first. Okay, so now we have our dashboards up, we've got our HRIS, and we are ready to start getting this data out there and getting it into the hands of the stakeholders. How do we go about doing that? So there's a lot of different ways to do this correctly, but I really like the mantra of start small. And I like that for a few reasons. One, there's a little bit of I don't want to call it theatrics, but a slow drip of more and more analytics really starts to get buy-in from your execs and get them hungry for more, which selfishly is what I use to then get the investment to hire more analysts to scale the program. So having a roadmap that builds on itself is really important. And then 2, once you start releasing data and reports, you're going to get a lot of questions. And I think people underestimate just how much work there is in answering those questions. And so starting small is a good approach. Starting too big can lead to failure. So what does this look like at ClickUp? After getting our PeopleInsights dashboards, we started with a monthly and a quarterly view, really small. This monthly view, this looks like a custom Tableau dashboard, right? It's actually just an Excel front, and it's powered by all of the info I was able to get from PeopleInsights. So I took all the awesome stuff from these various dashboards, put it into something super simple, and to be fair, PeopleInsights would have probably created this for me if I asked them to, but I'm a finance guy, so I have to use Excel sometimes. And we started putting this out in our monthly ops report. Just every month, you get a view of these key KPIs that we think are really important. Can't really see it very well, so it's headcount, ads, terms. We've been really monitoring our percentage of headcount in low-cost countries. Revenue per headcount, working with the finance team to think about that. And then this is our 9-box. We really want to understand who left in the last month. And are there any warning flags there? And if there are, do the deeper cut to see where they're leaving from. So that's the monthly dashboard. And we also do a quarterly look back. So the quarterly look back is where myself and the other folks on my team who help with data will really tear through the dashboards, looking at a variety of different cuts, trying to find things that are interesting. and also talking to folks like our PVPs to really understand like what's going on the ground and how can we show that in a very simple graph, a one-pager. Back in a past life, when I was at Google, we used to have these banks come in and talk to us. And they always brought these physical copies, spiral-bound, like card-size data books. And they only ever had one graph on them and one tagline. So I really took a lot from that because they were very impactful. Here's what we're claiming. Here's the graph that shows you so that you can see it. So by using the PeopleInsights platform behind the scenes, I can run all of this, determine what the really good stories are, vet those with our people partners, also give them a heads up because they're going to have to answer questions about this. So don't just show it to the executive team first. And then put these out once a quarter. That process takes me probably 4 to 6 hours, maybe 8 if it's a really hairy quarter. And so again, the drag on my time, I've got a lot of other things to do. Starting small is really important. But now, fast forward a year, they love these reports. They want more. They want more of these quarterly lookbacks. In fact, they want them for everybody below E-team. And so that's where we're going next, is scaling up our team so that we can expand and provide that in-depth analysis to each of the functions. Twice a year is what we're going to start out with. I don't think I can do quarterly for everybody. So this is just one example of how you can start. But again, I didn't show the day after tomorrow there, but we'll talk a little bit about what future looks like. So feel free to use something like this as a blueprint. Okay, so let's talk about where do we go from here and how am I doing on time? Got about 10 minutes left. Perfect. So I mentioned up front, buy first, build later. Like, why might you want to build? If you already got all these great dashboards, why would you even need to build? And so the answer to that is additional data sources. Now, PeopleInsight will take you a long way on this journey. They will ingest additional data sources for you. But if you fast forward to a 10,000 person company with a full built-in people analytics team, why do they make that investment? Because they can pull in all of the data, the various 100+ systems in HR, combine them into one place, and then start to invest in those data scientists who can take the descriptive reporting and start to turn it into predictive reporting. So this is well down the road. But to answer that question, why would you want to eventually build? That's really the power of integrated all-in-one analytics. I think that is most of what I want to cover. The other piece I would mention in partnering with the PeopleInsights team, I am frequently nervous, and Shauna, our head of recruiting ops, is up here in the front. She would tell you every time we meet with them, I'm like, when are they going to tell me to just pound sand? I've been asking for so much of their time to make these custom dashboards. I spent 30 minutes on the phone with them last week about the size of margins and whether something should have a shadow behind it or not. And I have yet to get even like a glare from them that I'm asking for too much time. So that's the other thing that's really great is you have a whole team that will help you to do these things. And they've also seen the best practices from other analytics functions. So kudos to them. They've been really great in supporting our ass. But I showed you the default out-of-the-box dashboards. If you looked at our build, we've got half again as many custom dashboards. And they put these up really, really quickly. So custom views are kind of the next step as well.